My name is Michelle Cowan, and I am a middle grades academic facilitator for Gaston County Schools. Today, I'm here to talk to you about author's purpose and point of view. The title of our learning today is, What's the Point? I can determine the author's point of view or purpose of a text. So let's get started. What are our learning goals today? Well, first we want to understand and identify the different purposes of text, and then we want to understand how the author's point of view affects the text. So let's get started. First of all, what is the purpose? Did you know that everything that you read has a purpose? When an author writes something, and it can be anything, a book, a magazine, textbook, anything that he chooses, all of his words have a purpose. He has a purpose behind why he or she is writing. So an author's purpose is the main reason that they have for writing. And there are 5 reasons why an author writes a piece. The first one is to persuade, to inform, to explain, to entertain, or to describe. And we use the acronym PIDE to help us remember these 5 different purposes that authors write with. We know now what a purpose is, but what exactly is a point of view? So whether an author wants to write to entertain, persuade, or inform, he or she is definitely going to have a point of view on the subject that they're talking about. And a point of view is basically what the author's opinion is about a particular subject. So how does the author's purpose and author's point of view go together? Well, the author will want you to see the topic from his or her point of view or through his or her eyes. So for some issues in some pieces that you'll read, you're going to be able to tell if the author is either for or against something. So when you're able to recognize the author's purpose, you're going to have a better understanding of that selection. And the purpose helps you determine what the best way is to attack how to read that selection. So we're going to look at the 5 different purposes one by one. The first one is to persuade. If the author's purpose is to persuade, they're going to want you to believe their position. They are usually non-fiction pieces, and although there are facts, it does contain a lot of the author's opinions. So with persuasive pieces, it's clear on the author's point of view, meaning if he or she is for or against something, you're going to know right away. The second purpose is to inform. Now, if a writer is writing to inform, they want you to learn something from that selection. And informational pieces sometimes use one or more of the following. They might use facts, places, events, people. These are just some of the things that informational pieces will use. The next one is explain. So when an author's purpose is to explain, one goal is going to be to tell you how to do something or how something might work. So some examples of an explanation text might include instructions, a cookbook, it might be a textbook on how a particular tool works or how a particular device works. So these are the purposes to explain. Entertain is the next one, and one goal may be for the author to tell a story that's going to describe characters and places and events, and they can be real or imaginary. So that is really important to note, that just because it's entertaining doesn't mean that it necessarily is fictional. So some examples of entertaining are poems, plays, stories, or even comic strips. The final type of author's purpose we're going to look at is describe. And if the author's purpose is to describe, you will be given details that are going to help you imagine or experience something. And description pieces oftentimes use one or more of your five senses. So there may be details that are going to solicit the use of your sight, your smell, taste, sound, etc. So now that we know all five types of author's purpose, let's give this a try and see if you can figure out the answers. So this first one is, I'd like you to use the information on the bottle to determine the author's purpose. Is it to inform, to entertain, or to persuade? If you said inform, you are correct. The label contained information and instructions on how to use the medicine. So let's try this next one. Can you identify the author's purpose of this piece? His face appeared in the window. She knew he had been the cause of her waking at 3 a.m. Was she seeing things? Was his face real? She tried to lie still and decide what to do. Just then, the window shattered. She flew across the room to the hallway and straight into her mother's room. So think about what the author's purpose is in writing this piece. Did you say to entertain? If so, you're correct. Now, the author tried to capture a suspenseful mood, kind of scary in the story. So this story is probably fiction. Let's see if you can identify this last author's purpose. It is recommended that parents read to their children every day, starting as early as 6 months of age. When you read with your children, you are starting them off in life as a lifelong reader and learner. It is never too late to pick up a book and read. People in their 80s have learned how to read and discovered the pleasure of reading. Turn off the television and read a book. Now, that's a pretty strong purpose in this one. What do you think? Are you thinking the purpose is to inform, entertain, or persuade? If you said persuade, you are absolutely correct. This is an emotional appeal to become a reader. And the last sentence encourages you to do something, to turn off the television, right? So the author is trying to persuade you to read more and watch less television. So today we looked at different purposes that authors use when writing a piece of text. We looked at persuade, inform, explain, entertain, describe, or hide. We also now know how to understand how the author's point of view or opinion affects the text.